this one.
Okay, it's just alphabet. They use alphabet. But that's right. You're going to go to the place or the first step? You have time. If somebody was hurt, you can sit. They have it. Maybe the thing will take. What time is it now? It's up to what you see. It's 5 to 9. They say. Yeah, the flag ceremony runs for 8 to 7 to 8.
But I'll still insist that I get another router sign up because even in this, you can already see it's still buffering. But because we don't know now which network users are connected, even though it's better than the one we had before, it is still
I'm not sure, but I think we shall get you. Cameras, tags, which are empty.
Osman, jebale. Wabale kubeera serious. Daisy.
زي نفس الميعاد ده الفندق تلاقي الوقت كان الساعه بالظبط 2 انا عارف ان انت لسه بس كانت جلسه مش جلسه لا اصلا
Sustainable. Where do they put the commission?
No, I'm saying Just move.
It is. Tell you to go to lesson.
When do we expect the minister?
9:30.
9:30. Okay. We'll have to wait there.
Yes, I think for you, China, it will be strategic for you.
Yeah.
You see, the other stand that which faces where people come from. So that when the ministers come.
Now, I need you to put for me a flower down as well. You should put a flower down. Down on that flower part. Yeah. Because the pla-
Hello, good morning. Good morning, good morning. Good morning. Can we please all can you all take our seats? Because we are expecting the guest of honor to be here shortly, and therefore it would be good.
These are sponsors. Will be having stalls, so we wish to get details of what they do, so that you appreciate why they are stuck with us.
The 10th SSB has attracted a total of about 200 foreign funds.
And success of this census round was aided disseminating census and CRV's information. We believe that this ambitious initiative has the potential to make significant contributions to Africa's growth prospects and poverty reduction efforts. Indeed, the well-respected Mackenzie Institute recently published a study on the benefits of open data systems and concluded that the adoption of open data systems can potentially contribute about $3 trillion per year in additional value to the global economy by improving the efficiency and effectiveness of decision-making and processes, by facilitating the creation of new and increasing value for individuals and countries. If Africa were to capture just a fraction of this additional economic value, this would have significant implications for economic growth and poverty reduction. For example, if just about 5% of these dollars in economic added to the global economy, that would translate into growth rates in excess of 10% per year. And such growth rates, of course, would result in the doubling of the African economy in less than a decade and bring about massive reductions in poverty on the magnitudes only seen recently in countries like China and the fast-growing East Asian. I would like to conclude my brief remarks by reiterating the bank's commitment to continue supporting statistical development across Africa, including the work we've embarked on to improve civil legislation and vital statistics. To this end, we'll continue to work with other Pan-African institutions, the ECA, the African Union, other development partners, and of course, the African countries themselves, so that we succeed. Thank you for your attention and wish you a successful.
African Development Bank. Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Pan-African institutions are like a three-legged stool. African Union Commission, African Development Bank, Economic Commission for Africa. It's a three-legged stool on which statistical development is sitting. Without them, if one leg falls off, then it will triple and fall. So I would like to thank the Pan-African institutions. Let me now take this opportunity to invite the Economic Commission for Africa to make their brief remarks.
That's good. Charles said that he's an outlier on the other side of the regression line. Right Honorable Prime Minister, Honorable Ministers here present, Deputy Attorney General of Uganda, the Governor of the Bank of Uganda, Director General of UBOS, and Director General of Registration Services Bureau, Chair of SAB, representatives of ADB, AUC, UN agencies, and international partners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the Executive Secretary of ECA, Mr. Carlos Lopez, I wish to express our deepest gratitude to the government and people of Uganda for co-organizing and hosting this milestone session of ASSD in this beautiful and historic resort. This is the 10th ASSD, and the number 10 is an important milestone, and it's appropriate to acknowledge any identifiable champion of such events. In this regard, with your permission, let me single out, among others, the key role played by the government of South Africa in instituting this annual event, and the tireless, and some would say dogged efforts of Statistics South Africa to keep it going. Pali can take a bow on behalf of your country. Milestone occasions are usually auspicious for looking back on how we got to where we are. So it is appropriate that the book by Professor Ben Chiregera is being launched today. And notice, as I said, the book. With the likes of Ben, Pali, Ajayi, Jacob, Charles, and others present, I don't think I qualified to make attempts to reminisce on the statistical history of Africa. I'll leave that task for them when the book is being launched. Instead, let me look ahead at emerging issues. And I want to start by quoting somebody called Andy Haldane. Now, who is he? He's the chief economist of the Bank of England. And the Bank of England is reported to be the world's 8th oldest financial institution. And England itself is rated to be the 6th top economy in the world by 2003 GDP figures. So with that, Mr. Halden's views on matters related to economics and statistics should be taken with some seriousness. And here is his quote when giving an interview to Sky News. He says, and I'm not saying it, he said, official statistics tend to be lagging and tend to be revised. That was an interview that aired on the 27th of December, just a few days ago, when the Bank of England announced that it had started to explore unconventional data, including data gleaned from analyzing internet activities, after it found that it could be more timely than the official data. He added that what this scraping of web can do is give us a better today read on what's going on. We were discussing the bumper trade during the Christmas time. Some people in our midst might see this development as a threat to our jobs. I see it as an opportunity. Before I explain how it's an opportunity, let me digress a little and talk about another recent event, the Consumer Electronics Show, or CES, that took place from the 6th to the 9th of January 2020, just last week. It's an annual event that is held in Las Vegas every year where tech companies show off their latest inventions. And why do I think that it is important for us as statisticians and data scientists to be concerned with what's happening at the CES? Because most of the gadgets developed this year are based on a concept that has been gathering momentum in recent years, the concept of Internet of Things. The Internet of Things is a scenario where everyday objects are interconnected and eventually embedded in the Internet infrastructure. If I'm driving and my phone rings, Pali calls me with this phone, a simple phone, but it's a little smartphone. I don't have to touch it. The music in my car will stop playing, and the voice through the speaker system will say, call from Pali, do you want to take it? And without taking my eyes off the screen, I'll say, yes. And the phone stopped taking sticks.
The salt for political will, which is my theme today. Talking about salts called umonyo, I remind myself of Munyonyo, where we are, which sits on the edge of this conurbation of lakes where fish abound. I'm tempted to play pan on Munyonyo with umonyo, salt, and ask ourselves the question, if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? I leave the answer for later, but those who read Matthew 5-13 may indeed know the answer. My theme today is the toil of statistician, the umonyo for political will. Statistics feed political will, their toil, statisticians, is the salt of the earth. Their toil is the salt of Vision 2063, the African integration agenda. Yet we need to ponder the question again and again, if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? An integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens and is presenting a dynamic force in the global arena, is the dream of the African child today. It is an inspirational dream, a rallying cry that by 2063, Africa will be socially, economically, and politically integrated. And the net product of this is Africa will be prosperous and peaceful. As the statistics community, we are inclined to believe that indeed the vision is possible. With the steps we have taken in the past 9 years, we can confirm that the direction and pace is suggestive of progress, and indeed Vision 2063 is within reach. It confirms that we are the salt of political will. Let me provide some history of our recent past in order to alert us to the important question of if the salt has been tasteless, how can it be made salty again? In 2005, African statisticians met in Yaoundé to address the fact that the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNECA, by its own admission, had no statistical program for Africa, especially for the 2010 round of population censuses. African statisticians resolved that ECA had to be dumped for an alternative forum. Thus vividly illustrating the point that when the salt has become tasteless, it cannot be made salty again. It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled underfoot by men. Convinced that the UNECA is an African agency, we agreed that, in fact, it is ourselves, national statisticians, who have become tasteless salt. As men and women of goodwill, we dedicated ourselves to lead with determination. The AESSD was thus born in Cape Town, South Africa, to be the salt of the earth and share this beautiful salt with UNECA and all Pan-African institutions, thereby reviving it. Our objectives were to ensure that Africa counts in the 2010 round of censuses, and especially we set ourselves an ambition to address countries in conflict, emerging out of conflict, and those about revisiting conflict. Our record as African statisticians is a proud one. In the 2010 round of censuses, 48 countries conducted the census a record count. Among these, we note with pride that Sudan conducted its census that paved the way for the comprehensive peace agreement. And African statisticians from Mozambique, South Africa, Kenya, Uganda, Ghana, Nigeria, and Ethiopia convened in Sudan to make its miracle happen. Angola ran its census after 4 decades without one in 2014. Cote d'Ivoire held its census this year after a period of strife. So was Liberia. Sierra Leone postponed its census because of the Ebola outbreak. Somalia conducted a large-scale survey, thus paving its road to peace. As Africans, we are not shy to face the government of His Excellency President Museveni for postponing the census not only once but twice in 2012 and 2013. We are delighted that Uganda has successfully conducted its census with preliminary results that delivered 2 months after collecting the census. This, the 10th edition of the ASSD, will go down as a fitting tribute to Uganda, its peoples and leadership. It confirms that our direction and pace is suggestive of progress, of achieving the promise that 2063 agenda is possible. We are the salt of political will. Madagascar and the DRC will run their censuses in 2015, putting paid a record achievement by African countries and Africans. Beyond the counting, we have published a book by African scholars on the demography of Africa, and as all data come on stream, we shall put all the unit records together, anonymized, to come up with an African population file, which African researchers and beyond can use to, amongst others, learn and interrogate the ever-elusive demographic dividend and other phenomena in Africa. We can confirm progress in that as part of this mega model introduced to the ASSD, the civil registration and vital statistics, with the ministers responsible meeting every 2 years since 2012, and the annual ASSD convening not only statisticians but civil registrars every year since 2010. This is a success worth recognizing. At this 10th ASSD, we have with us the councils and boards of national statistics, country statistics associations, and statistics training centers. This is indeed a data revolution, and Africans have tasted immense success, the salt of political will. In the period since 2006, African countries and Pan-African institutions demonstrated what is achievable when we work together. This approach notched many firsts, including a record international comparisons program 2011 ICP, where 49 African countries participated, and our own Michel Muela Potula from the Congo was the first African ICP manager delivering excellently on the global stage. How proud of this we are. We are notching successes of giving life to the African peer review mechanism by measuring governance and peace, which were only once holy cows. The global agricultural strategy has been birthed here in Africa, and the Young African Statisticians program shows that indeed we are committed to the future and the 2063 agenda. We have the strategy for the harmonization of statistics in Africa, SHASA, as well as the African Statistics Charter to address the 2063 agenda. Applied intelligently, it is possible that we can achieve our goals of 2063 faster and better. We are the salt of political will. We are Munyo, the salt. We are the Shasa, the deep racial water. We are pleased to be in Uganda, When the son of the soil, a pioneer of a true Pan-African, teacher, leader, and mentor, the winner of the Mahalonobis Award, the master himself presents his Umonyo, the salt of political will, his book titled The Emerging Data Revolution in Africa, Strengthening the Statistics, Policy, and Decision-Making Chain. Professor Gilgera is the Monyo of political will. He's the salt of the earth. The camaraderie and the constellational leadership in statistics we have experienced confirms Matthew 5-13 that salt is good, have salt amongst yourselves, and be at peace with each other. African statisticians are increasingly becoming the salt of the earth, the light of the world. A city set on the hill cannot be hidden, nor does anyone light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, and it gives light to all who are in the house. This is what we see African statisticians and their toil in the immense task of building a prosperous and peaceful Africa. This is the message we wish Your Excellency to convey to the summit of heads of states towards the end of the month. Yet, as we notch these notable successes that we are asking His Excellency to convey to heads of states, he keeps nagging us, if the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and tumbled under foot by men. We rightfully also report that we are increasingly bothered by the emergent deteriorating working relationship and arrangements amongst the Pan-African institutions that border on exclusion of some. This we have observed since 2011-2012. The salt is increasingly becoming tasteless, and in time it will no longer be good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under our feet by men. Our Pan-African institutions are no longer waiting. There is absolute disregard for important Pan-African statistical products, one of which is the data from the International Comparisons Program, without which the 2063 agenda remains a pipe dream. Pan-African institutions have not used it in the industrialization strategy of Africa, making such a strategy an empty shell void of delivering Agenda 2063. Instead, these institutions are chasing a false so-called integration index. The CRVS program, a mighty flagship program initiated in Africa against global skepticism, has set the world alight, with Asia and Latin America learning from us. It is led by an extremely dedicated team, one permanent staff and 2 others, waging against terrible odds, yet delivering value and a model of work that is incredibly innovative. However, given the quantum of work they face, even the most brilliant of people and systems, under those circumstances, they have collapsed. We are putting Africa's weight and hope on a very vulnerable crutch, and we expect miracles. In this situation, if left unattended, Africa, having lost out on industrial revolution, agricultural revolution, will lose out as usual and again, this time around on the data revolution. This time around by its own making of failing to strategize, prioritize, and allocate resources. Successful statistical programs this time around, successful statistical programs, the salt of political will, is not brought to policy at the Pan-African level, and some decisions at the Pan-African level are made in ways that hold no potential for possibility of implementation, because they fail to draw from the salt of political will, statistics, the Umonyo. Unlike institutions in other regions such as Europe, placement of staff in Pan-African institutions leaves a lot desired in as far as how adequate Pan-African are the individuals deployed. It is indeed necessary to put such employees or prospective candidates through institutions such as Kabombeki African Leadership Institute in South Africa, which boasts great African intellectuals such as Achima Ferje, Mamdani, and others, in order to have coherence between a Pan-African institution and its data. We need to support, my time. We need to support our African statistical institutes, Anglophone, Francophone, Arabic, and Lusophone. We make this point in the knowledge that whilst we are the salt of the earth, when the salt has become tasteless, how can it be made salty again? It is no longer good for anything except to be thrown out and trampled under foot by men. This hard fact we experienced with the UNECA in 2005. We are compelled to take a resolution that we shall dump UNECA for an alternative. Where water accumulated, we know it will accumulate again. We measure, we know success from failure, and we do not want to go back to 2005. But without intervention, we are fast heading there, and this will cause 2063 Africa agenda to be just a pipe dream. This is why we are communicating our successes and failure with candor. We are convinced that salt is good, and by having it amongst ourselves, we can be at peace with each other. We therefore remain committed because we are Umunyo, the salt of political will. We are the Shasa, the deep precious water. We are the salt of the earth. We are the light of the world. A city set on the hill that cannot be hidden. We are those who do not light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on the lampstand, so that it gives light to all who are in the house. But we are also concerned and worried that when salt loses its saltiness, it is not possible to make it salty again. Our constellational leadership model and our innovative funding strategies with deliberately disruptive systems to set in motion renewal and remove inertia from our processes are without parallel. When our call is heard and possibly heeded, we will revive the pre-2011 successes and propel Africa even further, faster and better towards its integration agenda. I thank you very much.
Thank you, the Assistant General, South Africa. Right Honorable Prime Minister, one of the things we are supposed to do at this opening ceremony is to give awards. And the first award, there are 4 awards, but because of your time limitations, you'll only preside over 1 award. And I will request the minister, my minister, and the Attorney General to remain behind for the other awards when the Prime Minister leaves. The award that is very important that I would like to invite one of us, Chief Ajay, to come and read a citation, a short citation, is for His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda. Chief Ajay, he's a young elder, he's a young statistics elder. The award this is an award by the African Statistical Community to His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President, for being an ardent user of statistics and for supporting statistical development in Uganda. Chief Ajay.
Thank you very much. The Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda and other protocols observed in the interest of time. This award by the African Statistical Community to His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, for being an ardent user of statistics and for supporting statistical development in Uganda. In the 70s and early 80s, Uganda experienced a sharp decline in statistical production, caused mainly by political turmoil and mismanagement. The capacity for data production got so badly degraded that it became extremely difficult to meet the basic needs of key data users. For instance, production of some data series ceased altogether. The quality of all continued data users The quality of all continued data series declined. There were glaring data gaps on important development indicators, and the statistical system could not respond to new development challenges, among them HIV, AIDS, energy, environment, governance, and so on. Statistics was on the back burner and very much lacked visibility. With the coming into power of His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni's government, major economic and institutional reform agenda and processes were embarked upon. Government soon realized that good statistics would be needed in support of the reforms and policies, as well as their implementation, and to monitor, measure progress. The said reform agenda created huge demand for statistics that was going to be impossible to meet in a meaningful way unless drastic steps were taken to improve the national statistical infrastructure and capacity to deliver good statistics. Starting from 1987, the government took several measures to rehabilitate the national statistical infrastructure, revive statistical production, and build confidence in official statistics again. The measures culminated in statistical reforms that led to the establishment of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics as an autonomous government statistical agency to enhance the credibility and integrity of official statistics and to better coordinate and supervise the national statistical system. The Bureau is now looked at as a role model in statistical organization and management in Africa. As an ardent user of statistics, His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has strongly supported statistical revival and reforms in Uganda. In recognition of this great contribution to statistical development in Uganda, the African Statistical Community bestows on him this Statistics Award.
May I request the Statistician General and Chair of the SSG to get the award, please. Who have the award? Oh, you have it already. May I also request Right Honorable Prime Minister to receive the award for His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda. Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for receiving the award for His Excellency the President. Indeed, for those of us who deal with statistics, we know the interest His Excellency the President has in statistics. He's somebody who is always looking for statistics. So thank you so much. May I now take this opportunity? May I invite I would like to take this opportunity to invite the Deputy Attorney General to come and address the meeting.
Right Honorable Prime Minister, Wakana Rugunda, Honorable Ministers, and all friends in the protocol already articulated. It gives me much pleasure to join you for the 10th African Symposium on Statistical Development today, because one of the theme topics, civil registration and vital statistics, is indeed a subject which we, as the Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, are passionate about. This symposium is very important to us, for it will enable us to learn from our friends successful approaches and initiatives for improving civil registration and vital statistics, and in so doing eradicate barriers that have for long stalled civil registration in Uganda. Uganda's civil registration has undergone phenomenal transformation over the years, and the government of Uganda is equally committed to accelerating growth in our civil registration rates as enshrined in our policy, legal, and institutional frameworks. The government of Uganda has developed a policy document that aims to transform Uganda, or Uganda society, from a peasant to a modern and prosperous country within 30 years. In order to address bottlenecks that have hindered Uganda's socio-economic development, and in order to consolidate and accelerate the growth process made thus far, we need accurate information on our population. This forms the basis for meaningful planning, and absence of information on Uganda's population has a bearing on government's ability to provide social services and amenities that critically affect our population's quality of life, like education, health, and social protection. All these are key indicators of Uganda's realization of social transformation and sustainable development under our Vision 2040. Collection and compilation of vital statistics is highly dependent on civil registration, hence the need to prioritize the evaluation of our civil registration and vital statistics systems. Programs and systems have been put in place to ensure routine and continuous registration of vital events, including the mobile vital records system and the ongoing national identification system. Birth data on our population is regularly captured using internet-connected computers and mobile handsets, while demographic changes for an individual will be regularly updated through the National Identification Register. Efforts are also underway to link the national identification to other government databases, including voter registration and statistics and civil registration. We are positive that these mechanisms will authenticate population data and provide reliable vital statistics, a key foundation for Uganda to achieve growth with equity and attain middle-income country status. Let me conclude by thanking the African Symposium on Statistical Development Secretariat and all civil registration and vital statistics partners for supporting this symposium. We are deeply honored to host this symposium, the 10th of its kind, and allow me to thank Uganda Bureau of Statistics and Uganda Registration Service Bureau for co-hosting this event on behalf of the government of Uganda. And I commend you all for prioritizing the civil registration and vital statistics in this symposium. For those of us here who are not statisticians like me, although some of us may claim to be learned, please pay particular attention so that you can add value to your knowledge. And in doing this, let me say this, that when you are going through something hard and you wonder where God is, remember the teacher is always quiet during a test. I wish you successful symposium and look forward to seeing you all in the Ivory Coast for the next ministerial conference, where we shall all meet to review progress on our civil registration and vital statistics achievements. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Before I invite the Honourable Minister of State for Planning, I would like to mention that the 3 other awards that I talked about, which will come later, one is going to Trevor Manuel for his commitment to contribution to statistical reforms in South Africa and statistical development in Africa. The next one is to Pali Lehola, the Statistician General, for his contribution to statistical reforms and development in South Africa and Africa. And lastly, we shall also be giving an award to Dr. Charles Rufumba, the head of statistics, the Director of Statistics, African Development Bank, for leadership and commitment to statistical development in Africa. I thought I would mention that so that the Right Honourable Prime Minister gets to know before he leaves. May I now take this opportunity to invite my Minister, Honourable Matia Kasaija, to come and address you. Honourable Minister, Mr. Kasaija is a very, very supportive minister, and during the census, he was with me in the jungles of the census to see what was happening around the country. Honourable Minister, Right Honourable Prime Minister, I would like to thank my minister for that in front of you. Honourable Minister.
The Honorable Prime Minister of Uganda, Ndugu Ruhakana Tugunda, my colleagues ministers, the chair of ASD, the representative of the African Development Bank, Mr. Governor, the Bank of Uganda, all heads of international and regional institutions, heads of national statistical and registration offices, all invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. Let me first begin by amplifying what Mr. Pali, I hope I'm not mutilating your name. Mr. Pali has used a word which I thought I should clarify. This place is called Munyonyo. And in Uganda here, we call salt Omunyo, Omunyu. So you were saying statistics, if I got him right, are salt, are like salt. And you have heard, if the salt, the biblical quotation, he only needs to quote where that comes from the Bible. He said that if the salt loses its taste, then it's no use, you dump it on the ground and people step on it. I, being the man responsible for economic planning in Uganda, statistics are my salt. And I will not allow that salt to become tasteless so that it can be dumped on the ground. I thought I should begin with that. Being the host minister, chief minister, on behalf of government and the people of Uganda, I wish to warmly welcome all of you, our dear guests, to this symposium, and wish all of you a happy and prosperous 2015, since this is the first time we are meeting in this new year. Uganda is greatly honored to host the 10th Symposium on African Statistical Development. The Statistical Fraternity across Africa celebrates a decade of existence, and more so, what you stand for. Uganda's participation and contribution to the ASSD is in fulfillment of the aspirations of the NRM government to engage and support African initiatives geared towards designing and developing African solutions to African challenges. I therefore salute our agencies and who have continued to engage in the ASSD and have subsequently managed to bring this symposium here in Kampala. I've been made aware that this forum, in its last meetings, has mainly addressed new emerging issues affecting the growth of data collection and use on the continent, particularly the censuses and civil registration. May I take this opportunity to apologize that we had to postpone the census on two occasions. Professor Kirelia, we apologize for that, not because we didn't have the goodwill, as you'll hear later on. The goodwill was there. The spirit was willing, but the body was weak. And the body was the pocket. The pocket was weak because of other competing needs for developing this country. That's why we were to postpone. But the very moment the pocket became strong, as you have heard from Mr. Mungereza, you will be interested to know that Uganda continues to prioritize the development and production of statistics, and the government insists on application and the use of these statistics to develop policies and plans. Indeed, our national plans are authenticated by the use of statistics. And also, all MDAs have to mainstream statistics in their plans and programs. You have heard what they have talked about, my excellent president. Statistics. Everything that he wants to convince the country about, or the world, he uses ever statistics. So this office of Ben is the generating house of those statistics. And they are ever in touch, either the president gets in touch with me or gets in touch with him to make sure that what we are talking about is based by statistics in terms of policy development, but also in terms of convincing people on the way forward that we would like people to follow. In the business of so many competing priorities, we acknowledge the limited resources at our disposal, but all the same do rally enough resources for statistical programs, as I've said. As you may note, we have just conducted our national population and housing census alongside undertaking the national registration of all persons aged 16 years and above. And this was not a very simple matter. Using this data, we have embarked on issuing national identity cards. These are, and the Honorable Minister responsible for that is here, Honorable James Baba. These are undertakings with serious financial implications, but our commitment to statistics and civil registration as a government has inspired us to put aside resources to carry out these activities. Since the National Resistance Government came to power, government has been able to establish and nurture requisite statistical infrastructure in this country. This includes a legal framework, human resource, office space, operation tools, and financial resources. The success and robustness of this infrastructure resonates prominently across, I'm told, the whole African continent and beyond. I have been informed that the model we have in Uganda continues to serve as the best practice and an inspiration to many. Ben, that's, I'm sure, a statement of correctness, because I got this one from Ben himself. I wish, therefore, to thank His Excellency the President of Uganda, and really I leave this to the Prime Minister, I think, but maybe let me also say something. Really, I'm very glad that you have been able to honor our President in this regard, but I leave it to the Prime Minister. He will add on to that. For the forwardness in this regard, and also sing out Professor Ben Kirigia for continuing to champion the same beyond the Ugandan borders. I assume, therefore, that the SSD initiative must have found fertile ground in Uganda in the last 10 years to consolidate its objective. The theme of this symposium, a decade of statistical development, revolutionizing census and civil registration and vital statistics toward African Agenda 2063, brings in a long-term perspective to the development of statistics for managing our continent. This is consistent with the African integration agenda that all of us are striving for. Uganda, therefore, wishes to appeal the statistical fraternity here to code the alignment of statistical programs to their respective country national agenda and the African Agenda 2063. This is one way of ensuring harmonization of different programs from where statistics are derived and applied across our continent. This will also help in the comparisons across our continent. This will also help in the comparison of the different development agendas across our continent. Finally, may I urge all the delegates to extend their stay as many days as they may wish, so as to enjoy the typical Uganda hospitality, the good weather, and the clean environment, with the hope that they will carry richer memories of the 10th ASD anniversary, and as an additional justification for your stay and travel to Uganda, a worthwhile adventure. Once more, I welcome you, and I wish you a very, very fruitful discussion, and we will await the recommendations and the decisions that will have been taken in this meeting. I thank you very much for this meeting. May I now take the pleasure of...
Thank you very much, my brother Matia Kasaija, the minister responsible for planning, the honorable ministers, both at the stage and also in the audience, the governor of the Bank of Uganda, Your Excellencies, representatives of development partners, the entire leadership of the African statistical institutions in your respective positions, heads of the National Civil Registration Offices, ladies and gentlemen. His Excellency President Yoweri Museveni, who would have wanted to be here, was unable to be, and therefore asked me to represent him, but he expresses his full solidarity and total support for the work done and being done by the African statistical institutions at all levels. And I'm happy that you have recognized his passion for statistical information and give him this important recognition. I want to thank you on his behalf. Like my other colleagues have already said, I wanted this opportunity to welcome you to Uganda and the 10th African Symposium on Statistical Development. I'm definitely not an expert, leave alone very informed on statistical issues, but my first heavy interaction with statistics was in medical school when I was doing biostatistics, but I didn't go much beyond that. Nevertheless, that exposure and exposure in public affairs clearly demonstrates the central role statistical information plays and is bound to play in the building of modern societies. You cannot build modern societies without reliable, dependable statistical information. And I agree with the expression by our comrade from South Africa that statistical information is indeed our salt in terms of our development endeavors. It is interesting when you are making reference to the president, it's true that he looks for factual and statistical information, and sometimes he is not bound by red tape. He will go for it where he believes it is and repeat it from there. So I think you in the leadership of statistical information make it as liberally available as possible, but definitely President Museveni is one of your avid users of this information that we produce. As a country, we are honored to host the 10th African Symposium on Statistical Development. The fact that you are holding the 10th Symposium is a sign that this initiative is gaining momentum and achieving its intended objectives. I'm also reliably informed that in the last 10 years, the statistical community in Africa has put in place many initiatives to address data challenges on our continent. Hence, the theme for this symposium, a decade of statistical development, revolutionizing censuses, civil registration, and vital statistics towards African Agenda 2063. Let me congratulate you upon arriving at a collective vision for the development of statistics in Africa in support of national and continental development agendas. The importance of statistics to Africa's integration processes and improved well-being of our population is now well appreciated and therefore cannot be overemphasized. It is well known that the statistics are needed to manage for development results, set targets and monitor outcomes, design and implement public development policies and strategies, make evidence-based decisions about the allocation and management of scarce resources, and enable citizens to make well-informed decisions. I am pleased to welcome the African Statistical and Civil Registration Fraternity, and I take this opportunity to inform you that your efforts to improve civil registration and vital statistics in Africa have the full support of African political leadership. You may recall that at a continental level, the Assembly of heads of states and government of the African Union endorsed the African Charter on Statistics in 2009. The Charter is a tool for statistical advocacy and commits African governments to scale up support to statistics and use statistics for policy development and management. In 2009, the summit mandated Pan-African institutions and the statistical community in Africa to produce a strategy for the harmonized statistics in support of Africa's integration agenda. This was done, and the strategy is an active implementation. At a continental level, the Council of Ministers responsible for civil registration resolved at a conference in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, in 2010, that the focus of the subsequent ASSD from 2011 to 2015 should be civil registration and vital statistics systems. And only recently, the summit pronounced itself on the much talked about data revolution, support the post-2015 International Sustainable Development Agenda. These are but a few expressions of collective support by African leaders for civil registration and vital statistics in the continent. There is also political support towards efforts to strengthen statistics in support of regional integration and regional development. For instance, in 2013, the Summit of Heads of State of the East African Community member countries approved the establishment of an autonomous East African Statistics Bureau to replace the current Statistics Department of the Community Secretariat. This decision was meant to enhance the credibility of statistics, which are crucial for monitoring observance of macroeconomic convergence criteria, the bedrock of the customs union, also the bedrock of the common market and the monetary union. It is also expected that the Autonomous Statistics Bureau will provide surveillance, compliance, and enforcement mechanisms to ensure that agreed statistical standards, methodologies, classifications, and norms are applied by all partner states of the East African community. The above pattern of political support towards civil registration and vital statistics has cascaded to national level, leading to significant progress in statistical production and management, as well as use statistics for public policy and for decision making. The story of statistical development in Uganda is a story of economic revival and development. When my government came to power in '86, priority was given of the national economy, which was in a very bad shape at that material time. There was early realization on our part that an economy cannot be managed without good statistical information. To this end, government took the following strategic decisions. One, to establish the Uganda Bureau of Statistics as an autonomous agency to enhance the coordination of official statistics in the country. Two, to establish the Uganda Registration Services Bureau, as an autonomous statutory body, promote, protect, and register businesses, enterprises, intellectual property rights, civil matters, act as official receiver, and collect non-tax revenue through an effective records management system. 3, to build Statistics House as a permanent home for the Uganda Bureau of Statistics. 4, to prioritize production of statistics in development programs, including poverty reduction programs. One-stop center for investors that will have the Uganda Registration Services Bureau. Plans are now underway to do this. Have paid off handsomely. The government is now able to use available civil registration information and statistics for periodic compilation of the National Development Plan that provides an update on the development status and health of the economy. Periodic production of the Poverty Status Report that informs the country on poverty levels and income disparities, and a government annual performance report that focuses on performance of government ministries, departments, and agencies against key objectives set out in the National Development Plan. The Poverty Status Report shows a declining trend in the percentage of the population in the country. That is, from a percentage of 56% in 1992 to now a percentage of 19.7%. That is 2013. Because of the huge technical capacity built over the years, the Uganda Bureau of Statistics was able to undertake 2 crucial activities in social and economic statistics last year, which, with minimum technical assistance from outside. The Bureau carried out a national population and housing census and was able to release preliminary results in a record time of 2 months. This census is providing basic social statistics that will be used for public policy, planning, decision-making, and monitoring service delivery at both national and subnational levels. Also, last year, the Bureau was able to rebase the country's gross domestic product. This involved collection and incorporation of more detailed information from new sources, improved methodologies for better collection, and introduction of new systems for GDP estimation. I would like to congratulate the Uganda Bureau of Statistics on the great success achieved in undertaking these 2 critical exercises in national statistical development. I'm also happy to note that in addition to the population and housing census, the Symposia have been advocating for improvements in civil registration and in vital statistics. Civil registration is an area which has not received in Africa as it should. Civil registration, in addition to national identification, is essential to building a modern public administration, promoting decentralization and democratization policies and programs, as well as for and monitoring of development policies, plans, and initiatives. In Uganda, plans are underway by government to strengthen civil registration and national identification through legislation and infrastructure development. Uganda Registration Service Bureau for successfully conducting the first ever on civil registration and the vital statistics systems. I want to congratulate my good friend, Professor Ben Tirejera, for writing a narrative about Africa's statistical development journey. The book is also topical, is calling on countries to effect a data revolution in support of increasing a pattern where African scholars are producing books and other knowledge products about Africa's development. I strongly support this trend. Foreigners can supplement what have been able to document, perhaps assist us to write in better English. This is not to suggest that Ben's book is written in compromised English, or better French, as the case may be, but not to narrate our history or development. We can and must do that ourselves. Let me also thank Professor Ben Tirejera, who was the first chairman of the Uganda Bureau of Statistics, for giving the Bureau a firm foundation on which we have successfully anchored our national statistical system. Let me once again welcome you all to this symposium. I wish you good deliberations, and I say this for God and my country.
Thank you, Right Honorable Prime Minister. We are now the East African anthem and followed by the Ugandan anthem. After that, Right Honorable Prime Minister, you will allow us like 2-3 minutes to take some photos in front here for the front seat, and some few will allow you to go. And I would like to request the 3 honorable ministers to remain with us. After the group photo, a short coffee break. It is one, but it's a coffee break. Because after that, Right Honorable Prime Minister, for your information, we have a flag ceremony, and we would want all the ministers to be available. So we will step out, have a cup of tea for about 20 minutes, and come back and have the flag ceremony and the remaining awards. Let's all stand up, and we have the East African anthem.
Afrika Mashariki, tuwezeshe kuishi kwa amani, timize na malengo yetu, jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuwajibike, tuimarike, umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. tulinde uhuru na amani, mila zetu na desturi zetu. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu. Viwandani na hata mashambani, tufanye kazi sote kwa makini, tujitoe kwa hali na mali, tuijenge jumuiya bora. Jumuiya yetu sote tuilinde, tuajibike, tuimarike. Umoja wetu ni nguzo yetu, idumu jumuiya yetu.
Thank you so much. Right Honorable Prime Minister, we request for a very short photo shoot-out here with the front seats. Please come and the first two lines, I believe we can fit here, and we have a photo with the Right Honorable Prime Minister before he leaves. Right in front here. ADB, I'm seeing you hesitating to come. Please come. Please, the first and second. And photographers, please. Save time. Save time. And after that, we shall have a coffee break for only 20 minutes. It's served just outside. Coffee break just outside. And as we have the coffee break, places of convenience, you go down the steps again, and turn right. Photo shoot out. Please don't miss the photo. Please stand behind.
Okay.
The photographers, please take because I wish to suppose that we are done with the photo. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know we will be taking a big group photo at the staircase as we what will be the exit. And you're invited to the cup of tea. Just right outside there, you'll have the cup of tea. to be requesting honorable ministers, members of the board, we have a table reserved where you are waiting for the guest. We request that you get back within about 15 minutes. That is sufficient time for us to have a cup of tea just right outside this hall. We could get back in 15 minutes and we conclude the opening protocols.
I think
I would need to go back and
That's out of mind. Yeah, up tomorrow. Go up to that side. See. No, Jenga, Malmagai was there. Shouldn't like. If you can get that. Congratulations, I'm honored.
And you can define data as raw-level information, which must undergo a process that adds value to the data.
Can't measure, you can't manage. If you can't measure the extent of need, you can't manage the extent of need.
Politics is my work. I like good news that I can tell people. I like to be
first and second.
But I call But please don't give me what I like, give me what I like. Part of what I need to do is help you make democracy.
Especially since the road was set up, people are going to the sign up to reforms, and then from all our countries, people go home and carry on as usual. This time we've got very specific targets, and we really in every country, year and more, to be measuring progress, so that the people of the country can see whether their government is keeping the promise. Governments should be trying to learn from what's succeeding and what's not succeeding and what's succeeding in other countries. And the world can hold itself to account. These ones draw more that there's a difference between data and information. And actually what happens a lot of the time is that Statisticians provide data when actually what is required is information. And you can define data as low-level information. Undergo a process that adds value to the data to turn it into information, usable information, especially policy-related information. You write a report, 50 pages, of which 40 pages are statistical tables, and only 10 pages are text. And you say to the minister, this guy is doing what he will see. Nothing new for me.
As the count began opening the nation still demanded attention. Halil Hoxha, the Deputy Minister Isot Pahad, went to try and sort it.
There is a certain priority of communities on the ground. The priorities that we have, among the others, is the question of the border district, which has been now in discussion for over 2.5 years in the government. And then later on, before the census started, we made our pitch to the President in Symposia with regard to the problems we are facing here. We made them aware that we are not opposing in principle the question of censuses. We want to be part of that, we want to be counted, because we are the residents of this area. But unfortunately, our concern, our plea was not addressed.
Today, the child is born. 6 years later, that child will have to go to school. 18 years later, that child will have to have a job. 25 years later, that child will be a man and want to live. And therefore, there must be an area where you can build a house and go. 6 years later, because you're an African and you don't live that long, your life expectancy is much shorter. You will die, and there must be a way. So, example, you can plan 40 years ahead. And while I don't want to go into the border district, but I don't know whether to do it. If you go this easy and that will help us to plan 40 years ahead of what and cross the other border district.
Some African leaders are convinced of this.
You can't plan anything without information. You need information to plan. So yes, I don't know who disputes that. What do they say? They say that you can plan without information.
It's the man in charge of it.
Hi, brother. How are you? But the order doesn't matter.
Listen to as you do. The two announcements that I wish to make. One is ADB funded
this book,
delegates.
no French, Portuguese, no French.
ADB funded delegates.
It's going to be translated.
Yes, yeah.
You may wish to see Leslie Nejma of the African Development Bank just in the corner where the rapporteurs are seated during the session. Of course, one of the issues is to deliver your passport, but we not all do it at the same time. Let's just be monitoring and we do it during this session. So find a moment to see her during this session. Secondly, we hope everybody has received the invitation. The minister is treating us to a cocktail this evening to allow us to do a bit of bonding as we progress. And that card, the invitation, states that we'll be at a poolside. Please be advised that the cocktail will be at the lakeside. Now the lakeside is where we have the general parking. Below it, there is an open ground. Somewhere you will not get lost. The ushers will be available to direct us. When you leave the reception where you checked into the hotel, a little behind, besides there is where we have the lakeside. We'll be having a cocktail and we'll be treated to African entertainment. So kindly be there, but remember to have your invitation with you, which we believe you have already received. I also wish to mention earlier that we'll be having dinner tomorrow. The dinner remains at the venue stated. There is a poolside for residents, which is that side. That's where we'll be having the dinner. Again, the Minister of Finance will be hosting us for the dinner. Welcome once again to hand back to...
Then the awards, the remaining awards. And then that will be the end of the session. Go for lunch. The clip.
If you can't measure it, you can't control. If you can't measure the extent of need, you can't manage the extent of need. Need a very sharp pencil, but help us sharpen it. Politics, I like good news. I like news that I can tell people. I'd like to be able to say we are now at full employment, that our economy is growing at 15% a year. I'd like those kinds of things. But please don't give me what I like, give me what I need, because part of what I need to do is to help deliver democracy to people who've waited a long time for it to touch their lives.
suppose since the UN was set up, people have gone to the UN and made great speeches and signed up to great reforms. And then from all our countries, people go home and carry on as usual. This time we've got very specific targets, and we need in every country, year on year, to be measuring progress, so that the people of the country can see whether their government is keeping the promise, government's what's not succeeding and what's succeeding in other countries. And the world can hold itself to account.
The statisticians don't know that there's a difference between data and information. And actually what happens a lot of the time is that statisticians provide data when actually what is required is information. And you can define data as low-level information, which must undergo a process that adds value to the data to turn it into information, usable information, especially policy-related information. You write a report, 50 pages, of which 40 pages are statistical tables, and only 10 pages are text. And you send it to the ministry. These guys look at the table and say, well, nothing here for me.
As the count began, the Nebo issue still demanded attention. Pali the Hotla and Deputy Minister Isop Pahad went to try and sort out the problem.
The communities. The priorities that we have, among the others, is a question of the border dispute, which has been now in discussion for over 2.5 years in the government. And then earlier on, before the census started, we made our appeal to the President and Deputy President Thabo with regard to the problems we are facing here. We made them aware that we are not opposed in principle to the question of censuses. We want to be part of that, we want to be counted, because we are the residents of this area. But unfortunately, our concern and our appeal was not addressed.
Today, the child is born. 6 years later, that child will have to go to school. 18 years later, that child will have to have a job. 25 years later, that child may be a man and go on to live. And therefore, there must be an area where they build a house and so on. 60 years later, because you are an African and you don't live that long, your life expectancy is much shorter. You will die, and there must be a break point. So a census provides this information for which you can plan 40 years ahead of us. And well, I don't want to go into the border dispute, but I don't know whether really we should hold this instrument that will help us to plan 40 years ahead of us for our children and grandsons.
Some African leaders are convinced of this.
You can't plan anything without information. You need information to plan. So yes, who disputes that? What do they say? They say that you can plan without information.